Well, first of all, as we gather on this vigil of Remembrance Day, we offer our prayers for those who have sacrificed their lives in war for the protection of us all. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May their souls and the souls of all of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. And as we recall with gratitude the faithful departed, I think in a very special way, of course, of Joe Barnaky, the heart and soul of the Cardinal's dinner, may he rest in peace as well. It is wonderful to be with you once again this evening as we share in the fellowship of the 37th Cardinal's Dinner. I would like to begin by expressing my deep gratitude, first of all, to Frank Morneau, the chairman of this year's dinner, along with Dan Sullivan, the vice chairman. Frank, I understand this is one of the largest dinners we've had in 37 years, with more than 1,800 in attendance. Thank you so much for your tremendous leadership and for your commitment to making this evening such a great success. I also extend warm greetings to our distinguished head table guests who represent leadership in the political, the corporate, and the community levels. We continue to pray for all of those who are in positions of leadership. There are a number of elected members from municipal, provincial, and federal governments with us this evening. The vocation of political office is a noble one, and yet in today's world it is both demanding and challenging. Elected members sacrifice much, especially time away from loved ones. And I always hold you close in prayer and be assured of my appreciation for all that you do. I bring warm greetings also to the religious leaders who are here from other faiths. Welcome to our gathering. And to the countless businesses that faithfully join us each year at the Cardinal's Dinner, we very much appreciate your generosity and your presence this evening. And finally, I extend a warm welcome to the clergy, the religious men and women, the parishioners from across the Archdiocese of Toronto who are here tonight. I thank you for your commitment, your unwavering dedication, and your service and faithfulness. As American presidents, and I won't go any further than that on recent political things, as American presidents give an annual State of the Union address, I will now talk about the election. No. Such a talk would trump what I'm going to say. My talk at the Cardinal's Dinner is an opportunity to review the state of the Catholic Church in this Archdiocese. We've recently celebrated, of course, the most significant event on the Feast of St. Michael, September 29th, when our cathedral was rededicated. After 168 years, it was in urgent need of serious repair. And now it is structurally sound. It's good to know the pillars won't collapse, as they are in danger of doing. Expanded in capacity to serve our mission as a diocese of 2 million members, and astonishingly beautiful, a real sign of the presence of God in our world. I love to take people in through the front door, and you go under the balcony, and then when they look up, they go, oh, wow, it's amazing. So it's a great beauty, and I urge everyone to come to your cathedral. It's a blessing. Now, looking forward, next year we'll be celebrating the 175th anniversary of our Archdiocese as well. So as we proceed in our mission of proclaiming the gospel, for several years now, our efforts have been coordinated and focused through our pastoral plan, which applies the eternal principles of the gospel to the particular situation in which we find ourselves. The 4 pillars or main points of the pastoral plan are these. First, building vibrant parishes which nourish the faith of those who are gathered and reach out to those who are scattered. Second, helping everyone to live to the full the vocation to which God calls them. Third, caring with practical love for those who are in need. And finally, bringing the good news of Christ to our secular culture. I thank all of the clergy, the religious, the lay faithful of the Archdiocese for their creative and zealous implementation of our pastoral plan over the last several years. It's beginning to bear real solid fruit. Now, most of our pastoral plan simply involves focusing our efforts more effectively, but some elements of it cost money. This is why we engaged in the Family of Faith campaign, hoping to raise at least $105 million as a minimum goal. As a result of the remarkable generosity of the people of the Archdiocese and the immense hard work and the dedication of the clergy and parishioners, almost $170 million has been pledged in the Family of Faith campaign. As this money is received, I assure you that it will be put to good use. I am deeply grateful for your sacrificial generosity in the service of the gospel. Now, this evening, I want to highlight two of the four pillars of our pastoral plan: vocations and practical service of those who are most in need. First of all, vocations. Each of us has a vocation, a sacred call from God. Each of us is called to serve as a disciple and to contribute to the common good of the society in which we live. Education is one thing that helps us to do that. We have a wonderful publicly funded Catholic education system in our province that has been successful for 170 years now, and I thank Premier Wynne and the leaders of the other parties for their steadfast support of this constitutional cornerstone of our nation. Of course, we should not forget the great work done as well by private Catholic schools. I'm most appreciative of the thousands of educators who each day journey with our young people. We also very much appreciate Catholic higher education, and in a special way, the service provided since the earliest days of our diocese by the University of St. Michael's College, whose president, David Mulroney, is with us this evening. It is a real gift to have this excellent Catholic institution of higher learning in our midst. We also, of course, in a very particular way, when we think of vocations, we pray that those who are called to serve all of us as religious sisters or brothers or deacons or priests will respond to that particular kind of vocation. Last weekend, I was delighted to participate, as I regularly do, in the Come and See weekend at St. Augustine Seminary. 27 young men considering the priesthood spent the weekend meeting with our seminarians, praying, and learning about the path to the priesthood. We are very blessed with an excellent vocation program led by Father Chris Lemieux and a council of 7 other priests who are actively engaged in meeting with young men considering a priestly vocation. Our approach is to root our vocation ministry in prayer. After all, the only thing Jesus said was, "Pray to the Lord of the harvest, that there may be ministers sent there." And so prayer, and to have a slow and most thorough process of accompaniment. Our pastors send potential candidates to the Come and See weekend, to several other vocation initiatives in which we are involved, such as Quo Vadis, for those who are at earlier stages of vocational discernment, and I thank them for that. Absolutely crucial is the great work of the Sarah Club in many initiatives, but especially in the yearly Ordinandi lunch, at which almost 900 high school students hear the vocation stories of those entering the priesthood and religious life. And in the evening of that day, the Ordinandi dinner, which is about the same size as the Cardinal's dinner, with over 1,800 participants, and at which the deacons about to be ordained speak of the call of God in their lives. A key component of our priestly vocation ministry is the Associates program for those who are in the period just before making the decision to enter the seminary. We currently have 22 associates, and there are 50 Toronto seminarians who are engaged in formation for the priesthood at Sarah House, at St. Augustine's, and at the Redemptoris Mater Seminary of the Neo-Catechumenal Way. Our principle is to take time, to be extremely thorough in our process of priestly formation. The fruits of that approach are evident in the excellent candidates who are preparing to serve us as priests. The third pillar of our pastoral plan, caring for the vulnerable with practical love, is especially connected to a theme which our Holy Father, Pope Francis, has made central to his pontificate, the importance of mercy. And of course, this year he has established as the year of mercy. His very motto as a pope makes this clear, and as a bishop. It is a quote from the Venerable Bede describing the call of the Apostle Matthew. It is in the experience of mercy that we are chosen by God. As we conclude the year of mercy, we look to the parable of the Good Samaritan, who noticed the man who was beaten and left to die at the side of the road. And we recall the constant urging of Pope Francis that we notice and care for those who are at the side of the road, who are on the edges of life, who are cast aside, and whose plight is so often treated with indifference. The Holy Father has spoken of the globalization of indifference. We need to be like the Good Samaritan, who cared and took action to help the wounded man, and not to be like those who were indifferent to his sufferings and walked by on the other side. Last year at this dinner, I spoke of the tremendous work taking place across the Archdiocese of Toronto in the area of welcoming refugees to Canada. We were then in the midst of our Project Hope campaign to raise $3 million in 100 days to welcome 100 families to our community. I'm pleased to report that we surpassed the fundraising goal with $3.7 million collected to support refugee sponsorship. So many of you present this evening, from parish volunteer groups to corporations, school boards, and individual donors, have been part of this magnificent effort. But even more impressive than the funds raised is the personal commitment that you have made to journey with a refugee family. 105 volunteer groups have stepped forward, not just to help for a few hours, but to commit to accompany a refugee family for a full year. That is our faith in action. That is practical love, and the mercy which Pope Francis reminds us is at the heart of the gospel. It's in that private sponsorship where the gift of money is there, yes, but it's love that makes the difference and helps people to become fully engaged as citizens in our society. And I don't think we've ever actually had to support the family for a whole year. I don't think we have the largest refugee service, I believe, in the country, private one, because before the year is out, because of the support of the people, they're already on their feet and away and successfully engaged in life. And that, I think, is something for which we should be thankful. Our commitment to become engaged in practical love and the mercy which our Holy Father urges us to make our priority is focused each year, of course, in the ShareLife appeal. It's our annual call to action to reach out to the vulnerable in society. The Catholic community continues to generously support our annual ShareLife appeal, raising more than $13 million in the past year. ShareLife supports more than 30 social service agencies that reach out to 200,000 people annually, caring for all of those who are in need, regardless of their religious background or affiliation. And in your program tonight, you see the beneficiaries of the proceeds of the Cardinal's dinner itself. These charities are quietly working away to make a difference in our community. And we always look to the example of those who founded our diocese, and especially Bishop Power. 2 buildings are signs of his life. Obviously, his cathedral, which we have now restored according to his intention. This is an outward sign of God's presence in our suffering world, and of the vision of divine mercy that guides us as we move outward from worship to service, and of the strength and direction which we receive in word and sacrament as we serve our brothers and sisters, especially those who are suffering. It is a holy place, containing the tomb of Bishop Power, who of course died, gave his life of typhus through the disease that he had contracted in caring for those suffering refugees in 1847. and is the tomb of the Loretto sisters, who also served the people in the diocese in its earliest days and of many early parishioners. The second symbol of Bishop Power's merciful love are the fever sheds where he gave his life ministering to the sick and the dying. They now, thankfully, are demolished. But the tradition of care for the sick continues, the heritage especially of the religious sisters who founded healthcare in our country. On the Feast of St. Michael, before rededicating the cathedral, I celebrated Mass as I do each year across the street at St. Michael's Hospital. Like St. Joseph's Health Center and Providence Healthcare, founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph. Each one of them offers the highest level of medical care and does so with a spirit of love and compassion that arises out of the mission of Christ the healer. This is the institutional conscience of Catholic healthcare. The mission, sacred, life-giving to our whole society, always to be cherished, always to be respected, profoundly important. It touches the hearts and lives of so many people. All three of these institutions are committed, among other things, to the service of the dying and offer splendid palliative care, combining the best that modern medicine offers with an environment of compassionate love. I recently was very happy to bless the new facility, the palliative care facility at Providence Healthcare. A merciful life is one in which we recognize the fundamental fact that the people around us are brothers and sisters to be loved, not things to be used and once no longer useful to be disposed of. Mercy calls us to recognize the dignity of the human person and to acknowledge that each person we encounter is a who, not a what. Each one of us has dignity, worthiness, which is inherent within us, despite any superficial weaknesses or inadequacy. What I am in the sight of God, that I am indeed, no more, no less. And yet we can so easily become merciless towards others, treating them as objects, not as persons, as we are distracted and led astray by some superficial characteristic, perhaps physical appearance or a psychological struggle or social ineptness or language or race or cultural difference or religion or political position or any number of things. The language we use can be harsh and merciless, especially when we cannot see the face of the person about whom we speak or write. That's one reason to pause before you hit the send button. It's so easy to demonize people with whom we disagree. Their dignity is forgotten, and then mercy dies. The worthiness, the dignity of each person around us comes from the fact that each is a person to be loved, not an object to be used. All people should be able to recognize that. People of faith recognize further that each person is made in the image and likeness of God and is to be revered because of that. True human dignity comes from within. The false and dangerous counterfeit of dignity is external propriety, sometimes mistaken for dignity. This is the idea that our dignity depends on us being good-looking, healthy, dynamic, successful, rich, in control, on top of our game, and so on. In that case, the man at the side of the road who was helped by the Good Samaritan and the very paragon of acts of mercy had no dignity. Naked, beaten up, bloody, repulsive to look at or touch. No, he had dignity. Everyone has dignity, independently of circumstance. Christ, naked and bloody on the cross, had dignity. And so did the thieves crucified with him. Dignity comes from within. It has nothing to do with external propriety or being in control or looking good. The homeless have dignity, the same as anyone else. Those suffering from addictions have dignity. All those who for any reason do not match some standard of physical or psychological or mental acceptability have dignity. Those who drool have no less dignity than those who do not. If we don't understand that deeply, then we are in real trouble as a society and individually. It is not our appearance or capability that gives us dignity. It comes from within, and ultimately it comes from God. This is also relevant, of course, to the fact that each one of us over time falls apart. We disintegrate. And boy, as the years go by, I remember some priest who would put on a bit of weight once said, "There's a lot of me that wasn't ordained that I'm beginning to appreciate what he meant." It's so difficult. The print becomes smaller. People speak more quietly. I don't know what it is. Fabrics begin to shrink. None of us, we don't retain the vigor and the strength and agility that we had in the prime of youth, though cosmetic technology can disguise that hard reality for a while. And medical technology and a healthy lifestyle can slow it down for a while, but only for a while. Shakespeare lights the path of wisdom for us as in As You Like It. He describes the ages of man. First, of course, the innocence of childhood, then the vigor of youth, the prosperity of middle age, and then old age. And finally, last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second childhood and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Much earlier than Shakespeare, the sacred author of Ecclesiastes warned us, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years draw near when you will say, 'I have no pleasure in them.'" It is our mission to show mercy to all of our brothers and sisters, and in doing that, to recognize in a concrete way their human dignity, and especially when they're experiencing the effects of suffering that come to all of us in various ways and at various times as we head for home through this valley of tears. We have been made more aware recently of the merciless assault on human dignity, which is sometimes falsely called mercy killing, even more falsely called medical assistance in dying, and most falsely called dying with dignity. When we are dying, especially if it is a result of a long illness, we may well not have and probably will not have the propriety of wholeness of mind and body, which we had when we were young and in good health. But everyone dies with dignity, and it is not right to hasten death in the mistaken belief that doing that is what is needed to allow a person to die with dignity. It is essential, however, that we show the mercy of the Good Samaritan not only to the homeless, to the sick, to those suffering or in prison, to any victims of violence and to refugees, but especially to those who are dying. We do that through true palliative care by using the best medical expertise available to control pain, and by surrounding the one who is dying with the love that we all hope to sustain us as we come to that crucial moment which we Catholics constantly mention in our most frequent prayer, the hour of our death. I've already mentioned that Catholic hospitals that do this, and I want also to thank all healthcare facilities that do that, the St. Elizabeth Visiting Nurses, and the Ontario government, which has helped increase the availability of palliative care. This is vitally important. So, Pope Francis calls us, especially in this year of mercy, to reflect deeply on how we treat other people. They are persons to be loved, not things to be used. It's as simple as that, and yet so difficult to live. We must show reverence for each of them, for each person, because of their human dignity, that natural and supernatural gift. And then, in all that we think and do, we must act accordingly. Thank you.